Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. We've just finished the first practice session, me and Reese of course watching alongside you all, and we are going to go now into practice 2. This is what this stream is now. This is the practice 2 stream, but let's just have a review of that session there, Reese. I mean, really not much to talk about in terms of lap times. We saw lots of disruptions, but the biggest one of all of them, of course, Sergio Perez crashing out literally on his first sighting lap of the session.
Yes, I mean, gosh, he did a warm-up lap, at least, but his first push lap, he just bent it. Unfortunately, he went straight into the wall after 360 first. He has brand new upgrades on his car, which is brilliant, unless you crash it, which he has. So no testing from Red Bull in that session at all, because they lost the dry running because of the rain, of course, that moved in after the red flag. So they be moving into the second session still quite a bit blind, unfortunately, and with a lot of work to do on their sister car.
Indeed. I mean, it's just a bit ridiculous when you think about the fact that Max Verstappen is dominating in that Red Bull car, having absolutely no issues, and Sergio Perez is just really struggling now, especially in the last, I'd say 3-4, but it's actually more like 6-7 races of the season. I mean, he started quite well. You know, we've got 2 first places in the first 4 races. So,
I mean, he started very well. He didn't start quite well. He had a brilliant start to his season. But as you say, it's just really, he's fallen off the pace of his teammates. He's not been able to keep consistent, and it's really going to start costing him possibly his race seat, if not a lot of confidence in that team.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely unbelievable how the fact that we've just really, I just can't, I'm lost for words when it comes to Sergio Perez, because I like him as a driver, I really do, but he's just, will he get replaced?
I mean, I think we'll have to see what he does this weekend. We'll have to see what Daniel Ricciardo is able to do, because I think at the moment he is the most viable replacement for Sergio Perez. Yeah, I don't want to say yes, but I don't want to say no at the same time, because he's costing that team a lot of money. Every point that he doesn't get costs a lot of money. Every point that he loses due to bad qualifying sessions, due to crashing into the wall, that's obviously going to cost him a lot of money. He owes them a new front wing. That's $150,000, if not more. He owes them new front suspension, which is new because they brought new upgrades this weekend, possibly causing damage to that floor, leaking the floor now to the media because the car had to go up on the crane. Yeah, he's not going to be in the good books. At all.
Not at all. And of course, that was Sergio Perez just spinning out, touching the grass slightly, going into the wall and crashing out, revealing the floor.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes into the FP1 session here in Hungary.
And then we basically had a lot of rain come in, which was predicted to be light and then turned into very heavy for quite a while.
Yes.
And we saw hopefully what would have been laps, and then all of them just sighted and came straight back to the pits. So we didn't see laps until like the last 8 or so minutes of the entire session, and we did see Carlos Sainz have a little bit of a spin, and he did beach his car, causing a second red flag, a very short red flag, I grant, but a red flag nonetheless, where he did beach his car and took a little bit of damage to his front wing, and then also Yuki Tsunoda damaged his front wing as well, and he also had to go back into the pits. So not too much to talk about in that practice session. The fastest driver of the day in practice 1 was George Russell, so well done to that Merc driver. But again, these times mean absolutely nothing in this session. So Reese, any final comments before we do head across to our F3 content?
Well, I think certainly quite impressed by Oscar Piastri, even though, I mean, we didn't see the big team setting any fast laps out there. I mean, we have Mercedes and Ferrari, but still not necessarily the most indicative laps from them, but good to see him still doing quite well in the wet. We do, though, have 2 hours and 22 minutes left remaining until we get going for FP2. Hopefully we'll get some dry running for that session, but I think you can take it away now for the F3 build-up, Mark.
Perfect, guys. Thank you so much for watching Forever Motorsports. Stay on the video, of course. We're going to just take you across to now the build-up for practice 2. As we says, we're going to take to now the F3 qualifying as they will, of course. I think they do have a sprint race tomorrow, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, so there'll be sprint races for F3 and F2 this weekend. So we're now going to go to F3 qualifying, and we're going to leave you there with a little bit of background music. And me and Reese will, of course, be back to commentate live for pre-practice 2. And guys, thank you so much.
everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Today's guide on how to watch the 2023 Formula One season, which kicks off this weekend. The Bahrain Grand Prix will officially get the season underway, and there is just so much action between now and about November when the season will come to an end. Just races all around the world, more sprints, more races, a busier season than ever, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season to see exactly if Red Bull can continue to sort of assert their dominance, if we're going to see Mercedes coming back, what are we going to see? And the question is, how can you watch all the action throughout the season? Now, the first things first is that we will do videos for every single Grand Prix. We will do videos on how to watch that particular Grand Prix on a free-to-air broadcaster. Which means that as long as you subscribe to the channel and you monitor us, you'll be able to sort of find out how to watch every single race on a free-to-air broadcaster. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now, to be able to do that, though, however, there are very different broadcasters from around the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself a VPN. I recommend using ExpressVPN because we've tried and tested it, and it just works. So what you're going to do, link in the description, get ExpressVPN, get yourself that year subscription as well. If you sign up for a year subscription, you'll actually get an extra 3 months for free, which means you'll be able to start watching from this weekend, and it'll cover you up to about June next year. And you're going to install ExpressVPN, and it's going to come up something look like that. And you think if you click on the right-hand side there, you're then going to get these this pop-up, and those are all the locations of all the various places where you can, connect to sort of servers. And what it does, it kind of geolocates your device. So, for example, for Bahrain, there are free-to-air broadcasts in Belgium as well as in Austria. So you connect to those locations and you go to those sites. But if you chose you wanted to watch the entire season, my recommendation would be to get F1 TV Pro. Now, it is only available in certain locations, that being the US, the Netherlands, Sweden, I think Spain, Germany. Then you'll need to use ExpressVPN if it's not covered in that region. And again, so what you do is you go on ExpressVPN, you go and select the United States, and then all you do is you turn it on. As soon as this goes green, it means that you are currently connected to a server in the United States. You're then going to go and sign up for F1 TV Pro, which is $45 for the entire year. Alternatively, it is $5 a month, which is really not a lot of money. And you can get so many more things. You can watch onboard footage with individual drivers. You get behind-the-scenes content. It really is the best way to watch Formula One. However, you can only watch it in those regions. And that is where a VPN, like ExpressVPN, will come in clutch and enable you to really sort of get the most out of F1 TV. Check out the description for a sort of step-by-step guide on exactly how you can do it. Apart from that, we'll see you guys throughout the season.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. I'm joined by Reese, and this is, of course, our weekly F1 podcast, proudly brought to you by Bitdefender as well. And big news, of course, this weekend. Ricciardo, first Grand Prix back in Formula One for AlphaTauri after replacing Nick de Vries. We did a video on that last week, and he will be coming in this weekend in Hungary for all of us. And we are so excited, aren't we, Reese?
Yes, it's looking like it's going to be quite an exciting race weekend. I mean, though, even off the bat, we're just going to be upfront about it. Red Bull have major upgrades being planned for this race weekend, which could give them another couple tenths, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite scary, the strongest team in the whole field basically saying, oh, by the way, we've made our car better. And quite significantly better as well. So it's going to scare, I think, a lot of people into it. So, I mean, I don't know if the other upgrades and other teams might be able to compete with that. I think, actually, to be fair, it's probably about time Red Bull needed to get that time going, because teams were starting to get a little bit closer to their times. I mean, the likes of, even surprisingly, obviously not last weekend, but the weekend before that, McLaren getting very close with their times and qualifying and actually sticking with Red Bull relatively well throughout the race. Obviously, Red Bull's still stronger, but it wasn't as clear cut. And now Red Bull basically saying, all right, well, in that case, we were going to go ahead and just really rapidly go to the top.
I think the circuit may play into McLaren's hands yet again, because, we saw how they were quite competitive in Silverstone. Of course, that's a mixture of high speed and low speed corners, but Hungary is quite a high downforce circuit, which played into their hands certainly in Austria, which is also a high downforce circuit. So we could see them being, once again, quite competitive here this weekend.
Yeah, I've got a little article here saying Max Verstappen's warning to the F1 grid as he confirms Red Bull's Hungary car upgrades. and he holds a comfortable 99-point lead currently in the title race. I mean, that's just in itself just ridiculous. And Verstappen was just speaking to the media and saying that, of course, Red Bull has announced the upgrade package being brought to this weekend. He says, Hungary presents a completely different track. We will implement some upgrades on the car there, and hopefully they will perform well. And regarding the focus of the upgrades, Verstappen ominously remarked, drag, low speed, medium speed, high speed, DRS effect, tyre wear, all of these areas. That's what we're working on. I'm not joking. So it's basically the whole shebang. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows the fact that Max Verstappen and Red Bull are still perfectionists. I mean, they've got Adrian Newey, one of the most talented car designers out there. I mean, he is certainly chasing perfection with his car, and we can see it out on track how it certainly is perfection on wheels. It's completely dominating the rest of the grid, and quite easily, if I might add.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's upsetting for some F1 fans, of course. We've got Red Bull coming up with these extra upgrades for the weekend, which is certainly going to scare the rest of the pack, certainly the likes of McLaren, Mercedes. I would say Aston Martin and Ferrari, but they've dropped off. So we'll see what happens with them.
We'll see them possibly coming back in the next few races. I certainly hope that they get to grips with their new upgrades. I think Ferrari bought new upgrades to Austria, was it not?
I think so, yeah.
Well. Yeah, and I mean, we haven't seen them necessarily showing that hand just yet, possibly just taking a little bit longer to get to grips with those upgrades. Hopefully, we should see them finding some pace soon.
Yeah, so of course, the bigger news and the title of the show, of course, that of Daniel Ricciardo coming in this week for his first Grand Prix for the season, replacing Nick de Vries. So I've got an article here from the F1 site. It says, Daniel Ricciardo says he is raring to go and is ready to have fun after securing a stunning F1 comeback with AlphaTauri as part of the upcoming Hungarian Grand Prix, a move that will break his half-year absence from the sport. And he said this, it's good, it's really good. Ricciardo beamed as the conversation kicked off. I enjoyed this, call it 6 months off. I think it was really good for me, but the more races I started to attend, the more sim I started to do. I was certainly getting the bug back, so to speak. Then jumping into the car a few days ago, I was like, oh yeah, it all felt very normal. It was one of those ones, the very first lap, oh, this is fast. Then within a few, it's, okay, I want this to go faster now, so it was really good. Ricciardo also added that he stayed ready at all times to ensure that he could fully embrace any opportunity to return to the grid, which he admitted was in the back of my mind given the unpredictable future of F1. And indeed, we are in silly season, and how silly it was indeed that AlphaTauri decided to stick with Nick de Vries for so long, I suppose, but now replacing him with Daniel Ricciardo. So how's he going to fare this weekend, Reese?
I mean, I think Daniel Ricciardo, of course, still has that passion and that fire burning deep within, that he is still a very competitive racing driver, one of the last of the late breakers. So hopefully we'll get him doing quite well this race weekend. I mean, certainly it's going to be interesting for the Red Bull management to see how he fares against Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki not necessarily having many teammates to set a necessarily benchmark for him. So I think the Red Bull management will certainly be looking to see if he is actually competitive against Daniel Ricciardo, or if he has just been taking place and space in that team, and whether he should also possibly be axed, really, because I mean, the sister team is supposed to be bringing drivers up from the junior formulas to get them ready for the main team in Formula One. So yeah, there's a lot of people riding on the shoulders of Danny Rick. I mean, there's also a lot of rumors, of course, about him possibly going to be replacing Sergio Perez if he is able to outperform him at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was just reading here as well. It says Ricciardo also knows that should he deliver with AlphaTauri, or at least perform relatively well with the sister team, as you say, there might be a route back to Red Bull in the future, though he is currently focused on the AlphaTauri job, of course. And he says, that's why it feels a bit like back when I was working my way up through it in the Red Bull family, he added. That was it. If you get results, we'll keep pushing you. We'll keep pushing you. That's really the mindset. I know the team. It's been tough to get points finished, points finished this year, a top 10. This is AlphaTauri, of course. So to push this car and to try and get it inside the top 10, I think that would get everyone pretty fulfilled and excited. So, I mean, if Daniel Ricciardo manages in his first Grand Prix to come back and finish in the top 10, would you say immediately that that's an outstanding performance?
Well, I mean, if he's able to get into the top 10, certainly that would be an outstanding performance for that AlphaTauri, which has been far off the pace this season. I mean, it's certainly not a copy and paste of the Red Bull car. It's completely different, I think, way underdeveloped as well, for that matter. And we've seen how Yuki Tsunoda and Nick de Vries have been struggling. So I think it may take a few races for Danny Rick to have an effect on that team and hopefully steer them into the correct direction in terms of development of that car as well.
Yeah. So if AlphaTauri can do something with Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez is certainly going to come under pressure with regards to the media, the fans, and everybody else is going to go and say, well, if Danny Rick is performing for them, he's right there. Sergio Perez is not performing for Red Bull. So how crucial is it that Sergio Perez finally does decently in qualifying this weekend and then also finishes the race well?
I think it's a bit of a chess move from the Red Bull management there to kind of go to Sergio. Well, look, we've put Daniel Rick into the AlphaTauri. If you're not able to outperform him at least, then you're in big trouble here. I mean, we don't necessarily know what Daniel Rick's going to be able to do. We'll see what happens here in Hungary, of course. But it's been, as we said earlier, 6 months of him out of an actual race car. He's, of course, done that Pirelli test now this last week, but still, we don't know what he's going to be able to do in that car. We've seen how Nick de Vries really struggled there, and he's a race winner in Formula E and Formula 2. But we'll just really have to wait and see what happens with Danny this race weekend.
Yeah, and Martin Brundle was actually surprised that Daniel was going to be back because, he literally said, he's really pleased to see him back, but his honest reaction was just, wow, Daniel's going to go and do that, is he? So some people are surprised at his return. A lot of people not really surprised. I think we're of those two that aren't too surprised with his return.
I was slightly surprised because he said he didn't want to come back onto the grid in an uncompetitive car. But I think being out of the car for 6 months, being on the grid for a lot of the races, you really do miss that feeling of being in a car, as well as I think he does sense the opportunity that he could get a drive in the main team if he is able to outperform Sergio.
Yeah, and of course that's all in the Hungarian Grand Prix, which we will of course be streaming here on Forever Motorsports. And speaking of the Hungarian Grand Prix, we've got a little bit of a weather forecast, and again, it's weather right at the beginning of the week. The weather will change most likely, but right now the weather could be quite interesting for Hungary. So Friday, it's predicted to be the worst day of the weekend, at least if you love the sun. Temperatures are going to be clipping 30 degrees Celsius and will feature throughout the week. And practice one will drops at 1:30 p.m. local time, so it'll start at lunchtime, so it'll be right in the hottest part of the day. And apparently it is going to be a scorcher. Saturday is going to say that we're going to have a bit of a green track because they actually reckon there'll be rain in the evening. So thundery showers could be predicted on Friday evening. That's what it's saying. The second practice session could see some showers and rain. And so they're likely to have a green track for Saturday's qualifying, or at least practice 3. So lots of hot weather mixed with rain is pretty much what's predicted for the weekend. So, that could definitely throw a bit of a spanner in the works. So also, if it rains each night, which is what's predicted to do, that's going to make sure the track is green every single time they get into a session on each day. So the race would be green. The qualifying would only have practice 3, getting it a bit rubbered up. So,
it could make the race quite interesting because I think then degradation is going to be huge around here. Because, when your track is a little bit rubbered up, you pick up a bit of rubber each lap. So you're not necessarily destroying those tires too quickly. But I think with a completely green track, you do just degrade your tires a lot faster. With it being as well a high downforce track, you are going to eat away at those tires a little bit quicker than a normal higher speed track. But it's going to hopefully make it quite interesting for us. Speaking of though, interesting for this race weekend, Mark, we have a new qualifying format that is going to be taking place at this Hungarian Grand Prix.
And I was going to go to that next, of course, but it is a very interesting thing. And for those who don't know, they're going to be doing a different set of tires each session. So we're going to start the first qualifying session on hard tires. You can only use the hard compound. Then in the second session, only the medium, and the third session, only the soft tire. Now, the interesting thing here is because it's going to be very, very hot weather, they reckon, and then as well, like slight rain and otherwise influencing this. I mean, it's some teams are going to really benefit from this, some teams not, because certain tires don't work for all of the cars. I mean, we know Red Bull are going to be chuffed as anything because they are by far and away much faster on the hard tire than the rest of the grid are on their hard tires, whereas only on the soft tire do other teams start to compete a little bit more with those times. So I mean, surely that benefits Red Bull massively in qualifying 1 and even 2.
Well, yes, I mean, it does look like it's going to be a big advantage for Red Bull in qualifying 1 and 2, as they are, as you said, very strong in the hards as well as strong in the mediums. We don't know, though. It could benefit some other teams further down the grid. We haven't necessarily seen that true pace from them on a set of hards. I mean, I don't think we've seen any qualifying laps put on a set of tires other than a set of softs this season. I mean, this qualifying format was set to take place in Imola earlier on this year. We, of course, saw what happened to Imola, some better than others. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I understand why they have brought this format into play here. It's because, I mean, they bring so many sets of tires to a race weekend, and then half of them don't end up being used, which is why they have brought in this rule now that you have to use a set of hards during Q1, mediums in Q2, and then in Q3 are you allowed a set of softs. Yeah.
So no, and I was just going to go and say, because you're going and saying earlier, they've got to use these tires and things like that, and they've never really done, as you said, and I was going to jump in, they've never really done qualifying attempts on a hard tire. So now that in itself, is that going to just really cause drivers to be a little bit of concern, of course, because the soft tire's got the most grip, medium tire a little bit less, and the hard tire less than that. But of course, the hard tire's made to last a lot longer. Medium tire's set to be, of course, in between the two of them. The soft tire has the most grip around the track usually. So with the hard tire now, I mean, do you think drivers could actually end up spinning and otherwise coming off the track a little bit, pushing those tires a little bit too much for what they're made for? Or do you think that it's actually just going to be just slow laps?
I mean, I think it's going to be a bit slow. These drivers, of course, run so close to the limit every day, and they're able to keep the cars on track. At least the majority of them are. But I don't think it's necessarily going to affect them in terms of that. But of course, the lap times will be a lot slower than your sets of mediums and your softs. Yeah, it's not really going to affect it all that much. Your top teams are still going to be just as fast on the set of hards. It could just create a little bit of a mix up down the midfield, as you could get teams that are a bit stronger on the hards than were expected. But I do think that if your team is fundamentally fast, they're going to be fast on any tire out there.
But the interesting thing now, of course, comes to players park firm, because now these hard tires are going to be used, these medium tires are going to be used, and these soft tires are all going to be used in the qualifying session. So you're going to use at minimum 3 sets of tires, and more likely 6 sets, because in each qualifying session you're going to go out in hards, and you might well go out in a new set of hards again towards the end of it, to try and get a little bit quicker at the end once it's rubbered up a bit more, and then similarly in Q2 and similarly in Q3. So now you're going to go into the actual Grand Prix with almost all of your tires for the allocation of the weekend being used. So no real new tires to speak of coming onto into the race weekend and even in qualifying. So that's going to also affect strategies, surely.
I mean, I think we'll get people saving up tires throughout the weekend. They won't go on as many runs as they necessarily need to throughout practice 1, 2, and 3. I think we could get people maybe running on a set of tires for the majority of the session instead of going on multiple new sets in order to save tires. Of course, they do have less tire sets than in the past in order to save on those costs of transporting them all around the world, of course. But I mean, I think it's a good move for Formula One. It pushes them in a certain direction as to use all of those tires. And as you said, it could make it quite interesting in terms of strategy on the Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, if the tires have been used and you're going on to used hard tires, they're not going to last as long. You maybe those pit stop strategies for a 1 stop suddenly change to a 2 stop. Those 2 stops change to 3 stops and things like that, because the tires don't last as long, and that could really, really affect the race. And I'm all for changes that could potentially make the racing more interesting, and that causes a bit more thinking in all of the teams and strategies to change and different variables. The more variables, the better for me, because of course then you've got more likelihood of things changing. So yeah, that's certainly going to suit some teams more than others. We know Red Bull probably smiling with new upgrades, and they know they're much better on hard tyres and medium tyres than the rest of the good. Not to say that they're not better than the rest of the good on soft tyres as well, but they're at least a little bit closer most of the good, though Red Bull and those hards especially, I think, are going to be very beneficial in a Q1. Now, a team that could be very much a disappointment yet again, and that is Ferrari. We always talk about Ferrari in terms of being the big disappointment, but Charles Leclerc has come out honestly and has said that he trusts the Ferrari team, and that yes, they do disagree sometimes, but he still trusts the team. And he says, I say to the team what I think, and the team say what they think. This is the way to move forward. I don't think the trust has ever been an issue. We have a very different vision inside the car than what the team has in the pit wall, so these things can happen. So, I mean, yes, I understand that the pit wall has a different idea as to what's happening in the car, but we don't really see such a massive difference in most of the team setups, do we? Red Bull seem to be very much all together with what's happening out on track. Even McLaren seem to be quite happy with what's happening. Aston Martin as well. All of them very happy with the decisions on the wall and in the driver's seat. You know, very much always aligned. Ferrari is the only team that always seems to have this struggle.
Yes, I mean, we often hear on the team radios how the drivers are not happy with the calls being made by the team in terms of strategy, in terms of calling them into pit or not to pit. I mean, we've heard in the past Carlos Sainz saying stop inventing to the team more, because they do at times. They just create absolutely stupid strategic calls that should never be made, that could cost them a race win or cost them a podium. We need to see more consistency from them, more better strategic calls. I mean, they've got a Le Mans 24-hour win. That is so difficult to do and requires so much strategy. Surely you take what you've learned there and implement that into your Formula One team. I mean, yeah, I think we've given them excuses for way too long. It's time for them to really pick up their pieces and just get it right for once.
So that's Ferrari, of course. They just, as you say, they just need to get it right. They need to fix it up and just be better, essentially. Mercedes, now, they managed to get a podium in the last Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton getting ahead of Oscar Piastri there, who finished in fourth, unfortunately. Lewis Hamilton finished in third. George Russell, not particularly good, and he hasn't been particularly great for a couple of races now. So can Merck try and eye some podiums this weekend, or are they looking good for that, or could they just sort of simmer where they've been?
I mean, the interesting thing is that the A-spec car, George Russell, seemed to outperform Lewis. Now with this new B-spec, it's swapped. Lewis seems to be finding some good pace out there while George is really struggling. I mean, George, I think, is maybe hoping they stayed with their A-spec car because he felt a lot more competitive. But yeah, I don't know what's really gone on with him, because he has shown that he is quite a competitive driver.
Yeah, and Aston Martin have fallen off. It's quite upsetting, and unfortunately, I just don't see them coming back into the fray. But a team that is pretty much taking their spot, though, McLaren. Now, they were fantastic in the last Grand Prix in Silverstone. Do we think that they'll do a similar thing now coming in Hungary? Because you said earlier, and you said, I think this track favors them. Now, do you think they can compete again? Does Lando Norris look at this and say, hey, you know who I'm competing with? It's not Charles Leclerc, it's not Carlos Sainz, it's Max Verstappen. And is that what Lando Norris is thinking in his head now?
Well, I think they'll have a bit of a fight on their hands. I don't necessarily know if they will be able to compete with the Red Bulls with their new upgrades this weekend. Of course, Red Bull haven't brought an upgrade for quite some time, and they are expected to bring some really big upgrades this weekend. We will, of course, let you know as soon as we do know what those upgrades are. But I mean, it's certainly hopeful for us Formula One fans that we have McLaren back in the fight at the front. I mean, we want to see them fighting for race wins. Hopefully, it is going to be the story for this race weekend. It would be very exciting if we do have them in contention for that race win.
Yeah. And do you have any other news for us for this podcast this week? Is there anything else you'd like to chat about as we start to wrap things up?
Well, we had Goodwood over the race weekend. Well, not race weekend, but this past weekend we had Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is a very prestigious event where a lot of auto manufacturers take their newest models of cars. I mean, we had Sebastian Vettel doing a show run in 2 of his old Formula One cars. He has one of Ayrton Senna's old cars, and he has also a old Williams car that he was running through that race weekend, running on sustainable fuels, which is great to see Sebastian Vettel back out on track in a car yet again. Certainly hope to see him on the Formula One grid very soon. We did see him last week, though, as well, at that Red Bull Pirelli test with Daniel Ricciardo. He was there doing some test laps as well with his cars.
Yeah, I mean, Vettel was seen racing around again over the weekend, as you said, and that was very, very fun to see. Do you think that he will ever come back to Formula One, or do you think he's permanently out?
He has apparently teased that he will be back on the grid very soon, whether that's in the
I'm sure that's
managerial position. I mean, I think he could certainly be brought into the sport as some sort of sustainability position. I don't know whether that would be to make sure that the sport is going in the right direction, or I don't know. It would be very interesting to see him back in the sport. I certainly hope that he finds his way back into the sport very soon.
Yeah. Now we've got 2 weekends until we've got that long break. So we've got 2 weekends for teams to sort things out before they've got a bit of time off before the latter half of the season. And going into these last 2 Grand Prix, I mean, who do you think is going to be our team to watch?
Well, certainly off the back of Silverstone, McLaren are really going to be the ones to watch, whether they can keep that upward growth going from Austria to Silverstone. Hopefully Hungary, they're going to be competitive yet again, and then onto that last race before the summer break, hopefully they will still be quite competitive. Maybe some of the other teams will also be wanting to make some developmental gains. We'll have to wait and see whether they'll be able to fast track some of those upgrades.
Indeed. And yeah, we're going to start wrapping things up here in the F1 podcast. Of course, we do this every Monday, so be sure to come and join us with it and come and have a conversation with us and ask us some questions. We do it live, of course, with me and Reese. And the show is proudly brought to you by Bitdefender currently. And you find it on the channel Forever Sports. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment after the video, of course, if you watch it in replay, as to your thoughts. Ask us some questions, and yeah, go and tell your friends about us as well. Maybe we can get a good chat going coming into the future. Of course, we've got Hungary coming this weekend. We will be streaming all of it and coming with a preview on Thursday as well. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and check that out as well. Reese, thank you so much for joining us. From me and Reese, you have been watching Forever Motorsports, brought to you by Bitdefender. And we will see you again very soon for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you so much, guys. Cheerio.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Today's guide on how to watch the 2023 Formula One season, which kicks off this weekend. The Bahrain Grand Prix will officially get the season underway, and there is just so much action between now and about November when the season will come to an end. Just races all around the world, more sprints, more races, a busier season than ever, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season to see exactly if Red Bull can continue to sort of assert their dominance, if you're going to see Mercedes coming back, what are we going to see? And the question is, how can you watch all the action throughout the season? Now, the first things first is that we will do videos for every single Grand Prix. We will do videos on how to watch that particular Grand Prix on a free-to-air broadcaster. Which means that as long as you subscribe to the channel and you monitor us, you'll be able to sort of find out how to watch every single race on a free-to-air broadcaster. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now, to be able to do that, though, however, there are very different broadcasters from around the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself a VPN. I recommend using ExpressVPN because we've tried and tested it and it just works. So what you're going to do, link in the description, get ExpressVPN, get yourself that year subscription as well. If you sign up for a year subscription, you'll actually get an extra 3 months for free, which means you'll be able to start watching from this weekend and it'll cover you up to about June next year. You're going to install ExpressVPN and it's going to come up something like that. And you think if you click on the right hand side there, you're then going to get these this pop up, and those are all the locations of all the various places where you can connect to sort of servers. And what it does, it kind of geolocates your device. So for example, for Bahrain, there are free-to-air broadcasts in Belgium as well as in Austria. So you connect to those locations and you go to those sites. But if you totally wanted to watch the entire season, my recommendation would be to get F1 TV Pro. Now, it is only available in certain locations, that being the US, the Netherlands, Sweden, I think Spain, Germany. Then you'll need to use ExpressVPN if it's not covered in that region. And again, so what you do is you go on ExpressVPN, you go and select the United States, and then all you do is you turn it on. As soon as this goes green, it means that you are currently connected to a server in the United States. You're then going to go and sign up for F1 TV Pro, which is $45 for the entire year. Alternatively, it is $5 a month, which is really not a lot of money. And you can get so many more things. You can watch onboard footage with individual drivers. You get behind-the-scenes content. It really is the best way to watch Formula One. However, you can only watch it in those regions. And that is where a VPN, like ExpressVPN, will come in clutch and enable you to really sort of get the most out of F1 TV. Check out the description for a sort of step-by-step guide on exactly how you can do it. Apart from that, we'll see you guys throughout the season. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Today's guide on how to watch the 2023 Formula One season, which kicks off this weekend. The Bahrain Grand Prix will officially get the season underway, and there is just so much action between now and about November when the season will come to an end. Just races all around the world, more sprints, more races, a busier season than ever, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season to see exactly if Red Bull can continue to sort of assert their dominance, if we're going to see Mercedes coming back, what are we going to see? And the question is, how can you watch all the action throughout the season? Now, the first things first is that we will do videos for every single Grand Prix. We will do videos on how to watch that particular Grand Prix on a free-to-air broadcaster. Which means that as long as you subscribe to the channel and you monitor us, you'll be able to sort of find out how to watch every single race on a free-to-air broadcaster. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now, to be able to do that, though, however, there are very different broadcasters from around the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself a VPN. I recommend using ExpressVPN because we've tried and tested it, and it just works. So what you're going to do, link in the description, get ExpressVPN, get yourself that year subscription as well. If you sign up for a year subscription, you'll actually get an extra 3 months for free, which means you'll be able to start watching from this weekend, and it'll cover you up to about June next year. You're going to install ExpressVPN, and it's going to come up something looking like that. And you think if you click on the right-hand side there, you're then going to get these this pop-up, and those are all the locations of all the various places where you can, connect to sort of servers. And what it does, it kind of geolocates your device. So, for example, for Bahrain, there are free-to-air broadcasts in Belgium as well as in Austria. So you connect to those locations and you go to those sites. But if you totally wanted to watch the entire season, my recommendation would be to get F1 TV Pro. Now, it is only available in certain locations, that being the US, the Netherlands, Sweden, I think Spain, Germany. Then you'll need to use ExpressVPN if it's not covered in that region. And again, so what you do is you go on ExpressVPN, you go and select the United States, and then all you do is you turn it on. As soon as this goes green, it means that you are currently connected to a server in the United States. You're then going to go and sign up for F1 TV Pro, which is $45 for the entire year. Alternatively, it is $5 a month, which is really not a lot of money. And you can get so many more things. You can watch onboard footage with individual drivers. You get behind-the-scenes content. It really is the best way to watch Formula One. However, you can only watch it in those regions. And that is where a VPN, like ExpressVPN, will come in clutch and enable you to really sort of get the most out of F1 TV. Check out the description for a sort of step-by-step guide on exactly how you can do it. Apart from that, we'll see you guys throughout the season.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. You're joined by Reese and myself, Mark, here for the Hungary Grand Prix preview, the Hungaroring, as Reese just tells me now. That's how you actually say it. I always keep saying the Hungaroring, but whatever. We are, of course, in Hungary this weekend, and Red Bull are bringing upgrades this weekend, big upgrades. We've already seen them, and it's mainly to do with the air intake, which has dramatically reduced in size. And for a car that's already so quick, getting more upgrades is just going to really upset the rest of the field. But we're going to go through what we can expect from all the various teams this weekend and our predictions. And otherwise, of course, Daniel Ricciardo is back in an F1 seat this weekend, and he's got a very cool helmet coming into the weekend with some flames all over. And yeah, looking very cool there. Reese, are we looking forward to the Hungary Grand Prix?
Yes, I'm certainly looking forward to it. It's ramping up to be a very exciting race weekend yet again. I mean, if last weekend was a taster, this weekend should certainly be very, very exciting with those McLarens hopefully being in the mix. Red Bull, as you said, have brought some major upgrades this weekend. They are supposedly bringing new side pods. We've already seen some leaked images on Twitter of their new side pod inlets, which seem to be quite a lot smaller than their previous side pod inlets. Quite similar in terms of look to the Mercedes Zero side pod concept, except not on its side. It's like a normal side pod, but it's very similar in terms of depth to that Mercedes side pod. So it's going to be interesting whether they can make that work this weekend. It is going to possibly be the hottest Grand Prix of the season, with Europe having a major heat wave at the moment. And it is just scorching in Hungary at the moment as well. So we'll have to wait and see if that Red Bull engine is going to be able to handle the heat with those slim side pod inlets.
an interesting one because, of course, they're bringing upgrades, and they haven't brought upgrades much throughout the season because they're not needed to at all. The car's been fantastic. It's been an excellent car. Now, they're bringing a massive change to the car. It is a huge change to do that, of course. It affects the cooling. It affects all of that sort of stuff. So, going into a very hot Grand Prix, could this be a risk for Red Bull now? Almost like throwing away a little bit of their season?
Well, I don't think you can say throwing away and season in the same word with Red Bull because they are just eons ahead of everyone else at this point. It doesn't really matter all that much to take a big risk, as much as Max Verstappen will, of course, be wanting to win every single Grand Prix this weekend and lead every single lap this season. It's not going to happen all the time. Maybe they might take a risk and it might not play out for them, but that could make it that much more exciting for us at home.
Exactly. So the Hungarian Grand Prix, it's been held 38 times in total. This first held way back in 1936. The most wins for all of the drivers in history is Lewis Hamilton with 8 wins here. And the most wins for constructor is not for once Ferrari. It is in fact McLaren with 11 wins at the circuit. And I think that's quite appropriate and apt because McLaren seem to have found their feet a bit. So maybe McLaren can do something this weekend. Indeed.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, foretelling indeed. Circuit length is 4.381 kilometers. The race length is 306 kilometers. And there are 70 laps in total. In the last race, George Russell finished on pole for Mercedes, getting the quickest lap around here last year, and Max Verstappen won the race. Lewis Hamilton came second, and George Russell came third. So it was a great Grand Prix for Mercedes last year, of course, for them who didn't have the best car during their season. So they started to ramp up this season again towards the end. If we remember, Mercedes started to get a lot better towards the latter half of the season last year, and maybe we'll see a similar sort of thing happen again. And last year they did very well. Maybe this year they do just as well again.
Well, they'll have some good information, at least from last year when they were here, to correlate with their new setups and their new upgrades. So hopefully they will be able to find some time because they have been not lost in the past few races, but certainly not contending for the race win, which at least McLaren were able to do last weekend. So possibly we'll be seeing a bit of a three-way fight this race weekend if Mercedes are able to pick up the pieces.
And just very, very important for both Mercedes drivers to not have issues with each other or decide to go into each other, as we have seen from the Mercedes team in the Hungarian Grand Prix previously, of course. Very, very famously, Lewis Hamilton and I think it was Rosberg, did have a big incident here in Hungary between 2014 and 2016. I can't quite remember which one it was.
Spain. It wasn't Spain.
Wasn't Spain, but I'm reading here.
Maybe they did have a tussle here as well.
I think they've had tussles here in the meanwhile, but yes, no, it was
Max and Daniel Ricciardo tussling into turn 3 a couple of years ago, where Max took off Daniel's wing when those two were fighting it out for P1 on the first lap. But I certainly don't remember the Nico Rosberg one. Did happen if you're saying it does.
Yeah, well, I'm just reading here, and it's just saying in this article as well. I was just going to try and I was just kind of cutting across there, but just simply because, we do see this article here in Sky Sports does bring up the fact that lots of incidents seem to have been brought up between not just Lewis Hamilton and Rosberg, but teammates generally in Hungary tend to get a bit feisty and otherwise getting in their way. And a couple of small incidents have happened over the years for multiple teams, including Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, of course, as well. So, Mercedes...
There was a big crash a few years ago into Turn 1. Turn 1 certainly going to be a big watching point for the Grand Prix because we often have so many big accidents here with that 90-degree corner. It's similar to Spa, which we have coming up soon as well, with that first corner, where we just see a lot of accidents taking place there.
Yeah, and Mercedes, of course, Toto Wolff is now playing down the expectations for this weekend, even though they did very well last year. And he's saying the order is fluctuating almost every weekend. We need to keep adding performance if we are to close the gap to the front and fight for victories. Several teams have made big gains recently, of course, those being McLaren and Mercedes as well. This has brought some into the fight with us, especially McLaren. It has been impressive and gives us encouragement that we can also continue to find gains. Of course, both of them using the same engines. That's why he's saying that's encouraging. And it says, we relish the challenge and will bring our own steps in due course. The Hungaroring is a circuit that is quite different in nature to Silverstone. It will be interesting to explore how our latest upgrades perform in the long radius, slow speed corners. So yeah, Mercedes are diving down expectations a little bit, but I think they're quietly hoping they're going to have a good Grand Prix.
I mean, they've been so hit or miss at the last few Grand Prix. They were quite good, at least out in Silverstone last weekend, but or the weekend before, sorry. But I mean, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens because I don't think we've really gotten a true reflection of the Mercedes pace. Yes, we did see them in Austria, but I don't think we've seen the true pace of a Mercedes at a high downforce circuit. This is the first true, like really high downforce circuit. So hopefully the Mercedes will be able to find a lot more pace here with their new side pods.
And another team looking to find a lot more pace that we've not seen for the last two Grand Prix, that being Aston Martin. Of course, Aston Martin's dropped off a little bit from where they started at the beginning of the season. Fernando Alonso's now gone two Grand Prix without a podium. So he's going to be quite upset, not since Canada, of course, where he managed to come in second place. I think it was Canada, yeah. So, yeah. But they do reckon that Aston Martin should be very much well suited to this track because they've seen that out of all the cars, the car that seems to handle hitting curbs and tight corners such as that and riding the curbs and otherwise is Aston Martin's actually the best team out of the lot. And that includes Red Bull. Their car manages hitting these curbs and otherwise these quite bumpy parts of the track a lot better than almost everybody. So whilst they were quiet at Silverstone and Spielberg, this is on the Sky Sports now, they do reckon that the AMR 23 strengths and change of direction and its ability to ride the curbs should fare a lot better in Budapest. The track temperature is also set above 40 degrees Celsius this weekend, which will also help Aston Martin since they seem to do very well in hot conditions. So yeah, I think Aston Martin are also quietly maybe going to make a little bit of a comeback here. But we're just seeing here an interview here where Alonso was asked by Sky Sports. He says, "We are realistic. We have always been. We have never been dreamers." Sorry, this is Mike Crack. It says, "So we will look at the track and we will look at our car and how to set it up for that. If you're looking for the characteristic, it should play better into our car than other circuits that we have been to. Qualifying is key though, especially in circuits where you struggle more to pass, like the one that will come. Although it was now a bit easier than it used to be." So I think he's also saying that we're not gonna say anything too much yet, but this track should suit us better, and if it does suit them better, we've seen what Aston Martin can do on tracks that suit them. So hopefully we'll see something similar.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit optimistic at the moment. Those Astons have been, as you say, just off the pace for the last few weekends. Yeah, it's very optimistic to think that they're going to be able to fight this weekend. Maybe they might surprise us. I'll be quite happily surprised because I am silently rooting for the Aston Martins to do quite well. It's been disappointing to not have Fernando up there because, I mean, we've had not George Russell, sorry, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton fighting up at the front. Imagine a three-way fight between those three, including Alonso. That would be incredible.
Indeed. And, to be fair, it's only 2 weekends they've not done particularly well. Prior to that, of course, in Canada, they did very well. Fernando Alonso finishing right up in second place. So Aston Martin could hopefully make a comeback here. It's a track that suits them a lot more. And they, of course, brought big upgrades to Montreal, and it worked quite well for that track, not for the subsequent two, but it should be better suited to this track as well. So Mercedes hopefully going to do well. McLaren hopefully going to continue their great form from Silverstone, and Aston Martin hopefully in the fold. But a team that's just fallen off and that we never get to talk about as improving and showing us all wrong is the famed Ferrari. And their form is once again up in the air. Who knows? What do we expect from Ferrari this weekend?
Oh, I mean, Ferrari, gosh, if you have to describe their season as one word, it's certainly disappointing. Off the back of last season, they were so close in terms of the championship points until around now in the season, which is where they started to really fall off. But this season, I mean, the wheels weren't even on the car to start with. It's just been bad all around. Coming into this Grand Prix weekend, I'm certainly hoping they can pick up the pieces a bit more. But yeah, I'm not very optimistic because I don't want to be let down again.
Indeed, and it's saying that basically don't be surprised if you see Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz fighting for pole position in qualifying, which they do tend to do. They've got very good qualifying pace in those Ferraris, but only they'll fall away come Sunday because the race pace of the Ferrari is nowhere in comparison to its qualifying time, and it's surprising that there's such a big gap between qualifying and the race itself. And also strategy does play a part to that, don't get me wrong. So, I mean, is it the less that we talk about Ferrari that they'll do better, hopefully?
I mean, it's so difficult. They've got just every resource available to them, including a Le Mans winning team. I keep reiterating this point over all of the Grand Prix weekends. But I mean, they've won Le Mans 24 hour. That is one of the most difficult races in motorsport to do. Surely you take some of those lessons and move it into your Formula One team. Hopefully, they have already started to do that, and we'll see the progress quite soon. But I mean, uh, just the constant strategy, bad calls is just it's beyond a joke at this point. They just are not seeming to learn from their mistakes.
No, not at all. However, we talk about McLaren, and I did say McLaren were going to drastically improve. Well, they did drastically improve rather in Silverstone, and we could see some great things from them in Hungary. But Lando Norris is saying probably not, because McLaren, he says, are terrible when it comes to slow corners, and of course. The Hungaroring's got plenty of these, got lots of high downforce corners. And it says, in an interview here, he says, I would say pretty terrible in the slow speed corners with regards to the McLaren fighting and matching with the Red Bull. Extremely difficult to drive. I feel if we're getting excited, and I accept that, but we're going to go to a couple of tracks coming up where I'm sure people are going to be saying, what have you done now? Like, has it got all of a bad, it's got bad all of a sudden. So he says, we've improved a lot of things. Tire degradation, there are things you want to try, and tire cooling and blah blah blah, but nothing big from that side. It's just Silverstone allowed us to look after the tires nicely, keep them in good condition, simple as that. So a lot of it is track specific. I don't want to get too excited. Good things have to come from the upgrades, but there's still plenty of things that are a mile away from, say, competing in certain places, with even Mercedes and as a whole package competing with the Red Bull. So yeah.
Well, I feel that he's certainly downplaying their performance in Silverstone, as you do as a racing driver, because now you've got expectations from all of your fans to get back on that podium. I mean, that car certainly, I think, still has the pace off of Austria. Austria isn't necessarily a very high downforce track, but it does have some of those corners where you do require a lot more downforce than, say, Silverstone. But yeah, off the back of Silverstone, it does look like that is the track that their car is best suited to at the moment. Hopefully, they will be able to learn some lessons though, and be able to fight here in Hungary.
Indeed, and of course, Daniel Ricciardo is coming back to this Grand Prix, and we're just about wrapping things up for the preview. So, Daniel Ricciardo, where's he going to finish, Reese?
I'm going to be optimistic here. Of course, it's Danny Rick's first weekend back in Formula One in 6 months. It's going to be difficult. I'm going to say, though, that he does outperform his teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, which is already not the easiest thing to do. Not saying Yuki Tsunoda's incredible, but he's had a lot more time in that car.
Yeah.
Um,
Does he finish top 10?
I don't know about if he's going to finish top 10. I'm going to say, though, that he out-qualifies Sergio Perez this weekend.
Okay. So, surprise drivers.
Quite optimistic.
Yeah, that's quite optimistic. So, surprise drivers for me, I think we're going to watch this weekend that are going to perform quite well, just to wrap things up, is I reckon Danny Rick will perform quite well. Alex Albon will perform very well. And I actually reckon Oscar Piastri will also be quite a bit of a surprise this weekend. And who are your three surprise drivers?
Well, now that you've taken all of them, don't have many to
You could choose the same
say
ones.
now. Well, I don't think you can ever discount Charles Leclerc. He is fighting really hard to still get that Ferrari as high up as it can get. He might have a good qualifying session, but once again in the race, they might just not have the degradation on their side. So I'm going to say Charles Leclerc. Danny Rick, I am really looking forward to having him. So I'm going to say he is going to be a standout, as will this weekend. Alex Albon is certainly one of my absolute favorites as well to watch. And then lastly, I'm going to say Lando Norris.
A whole spread of drivers, and of course we still expect, though, the Red Bull with these new upgrades to improve even more so, and we'll probably see Max Verstappen on pole. But that wraps up our preview here. So, Reese, unless there's anything that you've got in the back there,
no, nothing more from my side.
yeah, I think we're going to head on out. Thank you guys so much for watching this preview for Hungary, and we'll of course be streaming all of the sessions on this channel right here on Forever Sports. This is Forever Motorsports, of course. You've been joined by me and Reese, and thanks once again to Bitdefender for sponsoring the channel and for all of their work there. Go check them out in the description as well. But otherwise, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Cheerio.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Today's guide on how to watch the 2023 Formula One season, which kicks off this weekend. The Bahrain Grand Prix will officially get the season underway, and there is just so much action between now and about November when the season will come to an end. Just races all around the world, more sprints, more races, a busier season than ever, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season to see exactly if Red Bull can continue to sort of assert their dominance, if we're going to see Mercedes coming back, what are we going to see? And the question is, how can you watch all the action throughout the season? Now, the first things first is that we will do videos for every single Grand Prix. We will do videos on how to watch that particular Grand Prix on a free-to-air broadcaster. Which means that as long as you subscribe to the channel and you monitor us, you'll be able to sort of find out how to watch every single race on a free-to-air broadcaster. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now, to be able to do that, though, however, there are very different broadcasters from around the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself a VPN. I recommend using ExpressVPN because we've tried and tested it and it just works. So what you're going to do, link in the description, get ExpressVPN, get yourself that year subscription as well. If you sign up for a year subscription, you'll actually get an extra 3 months for free, which means you'll be able to start watching from this weekend, and it'll cover you up to about June next year. You're going to install ExpressVPN, and it's going to come up something looking like that. And you think if you click on the right-hand side there, you're then going to get these this pop-up, and those are all the locations of all the various places where you can, connect to sort of servers. And what it does, it kind of geolocates your device. So, for example, for Bahrain, there are free-to-air broadcasts in Belgium as well as in Austria. So you connect to those locations and you go to those sites. But if you totally wanted to watch the entire season, my recommendation would be to get F1 TV Pro. Now, it is only available in certain locations, that being the US, the Netherlands, Sweden, I think Spain, Germany. Then you'll need to use ExpressVPN if it's not covered in that region. And again, so what you do is you go on ExpressVPN, you go and select the United States, and then all you do is you turn it on. As soon as this goes green, it means that you are currently connected to a server in the United States. You're then going to go and sign up for F1 TV Pro, which is $45 for the entire year. Alternatively, it is $5 a month, which is really not a lot of money. And you can get so many more things. You can watch onboard footage with individual drivers. You get behind-the-scenes content. It really is the best way to watch Formula One. However, you can only watch it in those regions. And that is where a VPN, like ExpressVPN, will come in clutch and enable you to really sort of get the most out of F1 TV. Check out the description for a sort of step-by-step guide on exactly how you can do it. Apart from that, we'll see you guys throughout the season.
He put it in the wall. So not a great first session for him, but hopefully he will be able to turn his luck around in this session because, well, he kind of needs to show that he does have some pace in that car. Otherwise, Daniel Ricciardo is certainly going to outperform him and outshine him in that AlphaTauri seat. There is quite a lot of pressure on his shoulders at the moment, for sure, due to that. So just waiting at the moment to see what happens out on track. We've still got 6 minutes left to go, so I'm sure a lot of the drivers are waiting in their boxes at the moment to get going. Mark will unfortunately not be joining us this afternoon because, well, being from South Africa, we have load shedding, and so unfortunately he's not able to join the session, but he is controlling things behind, so hopefully he can at least be in the comment section chatting to you guys down there. Please do let me know though your predictions for the session. We've also got a poll running at the moment. The current question being asked is whose seats are currently at risk. Logan Sargent is one of the highest scoring results at the moment with 19% in that poll. Sergio Perez pretty much taking that with a landslide amount of votes with 66%. Magnussen with 7%. He's been doing all right, not necessarily all that great in that Haas. And then Carlos Sainz getting 8%. I certainly think he still deserves to be in that seat. Still a lot of talks of him going across to Audi, though, when they do join the sport properly in 2026. We finally have those titles running, though, from Formula One. So not long left to go until we get running here in Hungary for FP2. Please do let me know down in the comment section, though, who you are supporting for this practice session, who you think is going to top the timing sheets. Of course, Red Bull do have those new upgrades. They are looking quite aggressive out there with those undercut side pods. It's going to be very interesting to see what they're able to do out there. Brad just asking in the comment section, how is the weather? The weather is currently looking quite clear out on track, thankfully. So we should get a lot more running in the session, a lot more than what we had in FP1 with, I think, almost 5 to 8 people, not even getting running out on track. Sorry, Taya. I know my gain is quite high, so you can hear everything I do. But we are here in Hungary, and just looking at some stats for this Grand Prix weekend. This track is round 12 of the Formula One calendar, and the track distance is 4.3 kilometers, 2.7 miles. 55.2% of the track is spent at full throttle. 310.3 kilometers an hour is the top speed around here. 14 turns with an elevation of 34.62 meters. It's not a lot of elevation here, but it is a very, very tricky track, as Sergio Perez found out in FP1. The compounds for this weekend are the C5, C4, and C3. The compounds go from C5 to C0, so we are at the softest 3 of all of the compounds. Tire degradation around this track is expected to be quite high with the high downforce nature of the circuit. We do have Mark there in the comment section. Mark's Box is Mark's personal YouTube channel, so please do be sure to go and check that channel out and subscribe to them as well. Taya upset that Mark is unfortunately not able to join us, but I will be with you throughout the session. The current temperature out on track is 23 degrees Celsius. I think it is about 32 degrees track temperature, so not all too warm out there at the moment, but the current humidity is 52%. Hopefully we don't have any more rain in this session, because as I said earlier, we didn't get a lot of running in that first session at all. Max Verstappen didn't go out in the rain because, I mean, we see he doesn't take any risks, especially in the rain, because what's the point with a newly upgraded car in binning it into the wall like Sergio Perez did? They need to get as much data from that new upgrade this weekend as possible. And unfortunately with Sergio Perez's car, it looked like he did damage those new side pods. In the images that were shared after his crash, you could see that the left side pod did have a bit of cracking in it. We'll have to wait and see, though, if Red Bull does have any spare upgrades for this weekend. If they're not able to have any spares for Sergio Perez's car, then of course he will go back to the old spec car, which will potentially lose him quite a bit of pace out there. Looking at his car at the moment, though, just waiting to see the mechanics getting out the way. If I can see that car, it does look like he is on the new spec car, but I'm sure he won't be too slow out there after taking a bit of a knock to his confidence for sure in FP1. Just looking now at George Russell in his Mercedes Defender there, number 63, and a Ferrari of, I'm just waiting to see, it's Carlos Sainz. He had a bit of a sloppy first session as well, going and getting himself stuck on the, it wasn't the barriers. He hit the barrier, but then got stuck on the curbs, his floor just grounding out there a little bit and having to be pushed by the marshals to get back on track again. We do see people are noticing we have a few of the Formula 3 drivers on the Formula 1 timing board at the moment. That is because the Formula 3 or Formula 2 times were faster than the Formula 1 times. So that is why their times are currently up there. We will see those Formula 1 times though being put up as soon as they get out on track. Louis Cypher saying, I'm pretty sure the only damage was front suspension and wing. I did see a little bit of a crack in his left side pod, so I'm sure they do have some spares here because I do see those new upgrades still on his car at the moment. We do see cars at the end of the pit lane right now as that green light is being released as we hit 5 o'clock. 126 of you guys joining us at the moment, watching a bunch of that green paint being sprayed onto Lance Stroll's car. So also checking their new upgrades for this weekend with some fluid dynamics testing. We see that quite often here with that green high flow vis fluid that gets put onto their cars, which they then use to check how the airflow works on their new upgrades and compare that to their simulations that they run, of course, in the factories. Just watching over Max Verstappen, currently out of his car at the moment, not getting out on track just yet. Watching Lando Norris doing a race start. Alex Albon out on track at the moment. A lot of talk about him in the past few weekends, last few races. He's certainly been performing very, very well, certainly making me support him a lot more than I used to because he's really been outshining that car, doing a very, very good job there. It looks like Aston Martin are spraying that paint onto the rear wing, so possibly bringing a new upgraded rear wing this weekend and just wanting to check how that works. Just watching now as Lance Stroll is leaving the pit lane on a set of mediums, Alex Albon on a set of softs, as well as Logan Sargent on a set of softs. Then the rest of the people out at the moment on a set of mediums. Alonso on mediums, Zhou on mediums, Ocon as well, Tsunoda and Lando Norris. Kevin Magnussen is also out on track at the moment on a set of mediums. Not too busy just yet, but I'm sure we will see the track starting to ramp up quite quickly as we get a lot more running out there. It starts to rubber up a lot more and drivers just start to get a lot faster as well. Taya saying, I see Danny Rick. Certainly very exciting to have Danny Rick back in the sport again after about an 8 to 10 month hiatus after leaving McLaren at the end of last season. Now being promoted back into the AlphaTauri seat with Nick de Vries being demoted after the Silverstone Grand Prix. I'm sorry for those people who are tired about hearing of Daniel Ricciardo, but he is just such a great talking point at the moment, as is Sergio Perez, who has certainly not been performing as well as he is expected to be in that Red Bull seat, which has been such a dominant car this season. But Sergio Perez just not performing up to the standards of Max Verstappen at the moment, with him having quite a few dismal qualifying sessions in the past few weekends, not getting into qualifying 3. Last weekend in Silverstone, not even getting into quali 2. There will be a lot of eyes on Daniel Ricciardo to see if he is able to go any faster than Yuki Tsunoda for sure, because that is going to be the current benchmark in that AlphaTauri seat. It also allows those Red Bull managers and the Red Bull higher-ups, of course, to see see a bit of a benchmark of Yuki Tsunoda if he is possibly a good driver for the future. Of course, that car has been underperforming this season, so we don't expect to see Daniel Ricciardo getting too high up as we now see Alex Albon setting the first fastest lap out there. A 1:19.56 out there. Good time from Alex Albon so far. But we do expect to see the lap times falling quite a lot faster as Daniel Ricciardo is out there setting his first hot lap on a set of mediums. Logan Sargent going faster than Alex Albon out on track. At the moment, Daniel Ricciardo coming through the middle sector, waiting to see that middle sector time for him, 1.1 seconds off of Logan Sargent. Just remembering, though, that Sargent and Albon are in a set of softs. Bottas, though, on a set of mediums, currently setting the fastest middle sector out there on track. Daniel Ricciardo coming through the final sector now. Let's see what this lap time puts him. Currently down in 12th. He opens his DRS, comes across the line, and only promotes himself into 11th. Still behind Yuki Tsunoda right now. Yuki Tsunoda, of course, having a lot more time in that car, but Daniel Ricciardo, it is his first time in that AlphaTauri. Lando Norris currently puts himself up into P1 with a 119 dead, I think it is. Max Verstappen still in the pits at the moment, just watching out on track, letting the track evolve a little bit first until he feels comfortable to get out on track. A lot of people who are out on track at the moment just slowing down and cooling their tires down before they go on another hot lap. Currently still yet to go out on track is Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz, Russell, and well, it says Verstappen there again, but I think that's just a bit of a glitch in the system. I'm sure that will get fixed once we get everyone out on track. Currently, though, our top 10 is Lando Norris in P1 with the 119.0, Logan Sargent 0.446 behind him on a set of softs. Interesting to see that lap time from Lando Norris on a set of mediums. That McLaren, even though they've been downplaying this weekend, they still have a lot of pace out there on track, certainly over the rest of the midfield. Waiting to see the true pace from the Mercedes and from Red Bull and Ferrari still. 222 of you watching alongside with us at the moment. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Formula One content. We still have a lot to bring you throughout the rest of this race weekend with free practice 3 tomorrow, qualifying, and the race, of course, on Sunday. It's going to be quite a jam-packed weekend as well, with Formula 3 and Formula 2 taking place all on this channel. So please do stay tuned and do like the video if you enjoy what we are putting out for you. Just looking at the current gap to the fastest drivers, the average time gain lost from Bahrain to Britain. Red Bull Racing being the fastest, of course. Ferrari losing 0.19 seconds, which is about 0.07 or 6. And then Mercedes 0.35 down, McLaren 0.44 down. They've gained quite a lot from Bahrain. Alpine a little bit up as well from Bahrain, 0.37. Aston Martin down from Bahrain. They certainly have fallen a little bit off the pace in the past few races. We then have Williams, who've made some brilliant comebacks throughout the season, with, of course, Alex Albon also having a great past few races. Then Haas, they've lost a little bit over the past few races as well since Bahrain, losing 0.05 seconds per lap time. AlphaTauri gaining a little bit of lap time throughout the season, but of course, their car wasn't too great to start with. Alfa Romeo also gaining a bit of time from the beginning of the season as well. Back, though, out onto track, just seeing who's currently running out there, following Lando Norris on another hot lap. Will he be able to take that top spot yet again? He's currently personal best in his first sector, but not any purple sectors just yet. Looking quite hooked up, though, in the middle sector. 0.5 down on the fastest lap from Logan Sargent at the moment. Valtteri Bottas also looking quite fast out on track, 0.2 seconds down on Sargent's time on a set of mediums as well. Please do let me know in the comment section who you are supporting and who you want to have a good race weekend, as well as your predictions for this race weekend, as well as, I mean, what is your opinion on the situation with Daniel Ricciardo? Do you think he will be able to compete at AlphaTauri and possibly get that second seat in the Red Bull? But we will have to wait and see what he can do for the rest of the season. We do have Max Verstappen now finally getting into his car. Lots of photographers currently watching on at Max Verstappen's garage, just getting some pictures of that newly upgraded Red Bull. Taya just saying Hulk with the bleached blonde hair is just giving Kennedy. Hulkenberg, of course, looking quite chaotic with his new hair. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest fan of it. It looks quite scary, but he has done that for the new Barbie movie. And yes, it is now Nico Hulkenberg for this weekend. As we see George Russell just getting in the way there a little bit of a Haas who makes his way past him. I think the Haas comes into the pits and George Russell stays out and starts another hot lap now. Sargent's still keeping on to that top spot at the moment, as George Russell now opens his DRS and makes his way down that main straight to start another hot lap for himself. Let's see what the true pace is for George Russell and those Mercedes drivers out there with the first time for a Mercedes this race weekend. Well, first race time in the dry, of course. We did have a little bit of running in FP1, but that doesn't really count because it was so wet out there. Just watching what he does in the first sector now, 0.7 seconds off of Logan Sargent's fastest time. That puts him still quite far behind everyone else at the moment. Maybe his tyres just need a little bit longer to warm up. He may be on a lot higher fuel run as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Making his way through the middle sector now, apex speed being about just under 200 kilometers an hour through turns 8 and 9. 154 kilometers an hour as he makes his way through turn 9 there, coming out past that middle sector time marker, 1.5 seconds off of the pace at the moment. George Russell on the radio saying I made a brake balance change there, and it came up with a strap mode change. That's certainly not what he wants out there at the moment, but hopefully they'll be able to fix that from the pit wall. Offbeat just saying what's up and greetings from, I think that's Germany, DE there. Thank you for joining us. Please do let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments section. Always great to chat alongside with you and answer your questions. It makes my life a little bit easier, as Mark is unfortunately not with me in the studio today, but we will have him with us again tomorrow, and he is in the comment section chatting with you guys as well. Please do let me know as well if you want to change the poll. Currently our poll is running, asking who has their seat currently at risk. We do have, I think this is Alonso starting another hot lap at the moment though. The current driver's seat at risk though, according to you, is Logan Sargent with 17%, Sergio Perez with 69%, Kevin Magnussen 7%, and Carlos Sainz with 8%. Very interesting poll there. Of course, Sergio Perez under a lot of pressure at the moment in that sister Red Bull seat. Taya saying that she's hoping and praying that the Red Bull upgrades do not work out. I think that's a little bit optimistic, unfortunately, because they look quite dominant. I mean, they've taken essentially what the Mercedes were trying to do with their slim radiators. Mercedes, of course, facing their radiators this way, Red Bull just facing them this way, but they are so slim that they are able to just have such a big aerodynamic change. And possibly an aerodynamic advantage down the straights and into the corners. They're hoping that it does provide them with a bit more downforce. We still have had no running, though, from the two Red Bulls, the two Ferraris, as well as Lewis Hamilton. The rest of the grid, though, has set fast laps. Logan Sargent and Alex Albon currently at the top of the timing boards. Logan Sargent with the 1:18.8, Alex Albon 0.1 seconds behind his teammate at the moment. Then we have Bottas on a set of mediums, 0.2 seconds behind him. Lando Norris ever so slightly behind Valtteri Bottas there. Zhou on an outlap at the moment, sitting in fifth. Alonso in sixth, 0.2 seconds off of Zhou Guanyu down there. So quite a compact top 5 to, well, top 10 as well at the moment. Hopefully we'll see a lot more people putting in some fast laps. Now, Sainz is currently leaving the pit, so we will also be seeing some lap times from Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. Hamilton coming through the mid sector now, 1.1 seconds off the pace. Also, I expect to be on quite a lot of fuel. Vivan saying greetings from America. Logan Sargent P1. Of course, it's a joke. But yes, Americans there in the comment section. You with your miles an hour and all of that. We speak in kilometers an hour here, unfortunately, but I'll try my best for you. Lando Norris moves himself up into P2.076 behind Logan Sargent's time on a set of softs. So this track is clearly evolving quite quickly. Just being asked, if Ricciardo gets that second seat in Red Bull, will AlphaTauri give the second seat to a new rookie? It's certainly interesting. I wonder if Red Bull will completely axe Sergio Perez or demote him to that AlphaTauri seat. I mean, I certainly hope he's still able to stay in Formula One, because he has been here for quite some time and has certainly still proven his worth here in Formula One. So I do believe he deserves to be in a team. But whether Red Bull will completely axe him or put him into the AlphaTauri seat, we will have to wait and see what is being put down on track this weekend between himself and Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo's still a bit off the pace at the moment of Yuki Tsunoda. Of course, he may be on a different run plan, but I mean, it's to be expected at the moment with him, of course, not having raced for about 10 months. Taya saying she thinks that we should bring Nick back. I mean, I don't necessarily know if Nick is the right fit anymore for Formula One. He didn't have much of a presence, unfortunately, as much as I was a fan of him. I was expecting to get to know him a bit more, which we really didn't. We didn't see much of him from press conferences. He didn't have a personality like we have from Daniel Ricciardo, which is also a big reason why I think they have brought him back into the sport, because he really is just such a big marketing personality, really. Pureblood just saying Lawson should be put into the seat, then Liam Lawson should be put into the seat if Sergio Perez does get axed or demoted. But I mean, there's a lot of speculation as to what should happen. Unfortunately, we will never know what happens until Red Bull decides to pull the trigger. We do have Sergio Perez out on track at the moment. Hopefully he'll be putting in some hot laps now. Didn't really see much of a dent being put in by Hamilton on his hot lap. He's only down in P14 with Russell up in P11. Not really showing much pace out there today. Possibly still on some high fuel runs, so hopefully we'll see those lap times falling throughout the session. But Charles Leclerc now moves himself up into P7 on his latest lap, his first lap for this session, catching George Russell quite closely there, though, at the end of his lap. Hopefully George Russell didn't get in the way too much of him, but he seemed quite comfortable there. Just watching a replay of Lando Norris here, making his way into turn 7, or getting, well, quite neat and tidy through there, to be honest, in my eyes. Just saying on the radio, still bottoming out quite a bit. I don't think it's hurting anything, though. That is interesting. I mean, we haven't seen porpoising for quite a while. He did get quite a big hand of oversteer through turn 8 and 9. Just watching Zhou Guanyu getting held up by George Russell there through turn 6. Yeah, not great there. Interesting to see, though, that no one is able to beat the time of Logan Sargent out there at the moment. Our local American Vivian will certainly be very happy in the comments section that Logan Sargent is currently P1, but we will have to wait and see what these two Red Bulls are able to do. Sergio Perez currently on a set of softs, looking quite hooked up out on track, having a little bit of understeer in the one corner, but still looking very, very neat and tidy through the rest of the mid-sector, approaching that mid-sector mark, and now we'll see what he is able to do there. He sets a personal best time. No purples just yet, making his way through the final sector now. This newly upgraded Red Bull is supposed to be up to 0.2 seconds faster than their previous iteration, but we'll have to wait and see. It looks like his mirror is moving quite a lot, though. Make his way now through turn 14, the final corner. What time is he able to do here on the set of softs? He only goes P6, 119.1 on a set of softs. Not necessarily what we expected from him. Offbeat, not necessarily impressed with the Ferrari's pace at the moment, being currently down in, where are they? Charles Leclerc down in P8, and Carlos Sainz, I'm trying to find him. Has he even put in a lap time yet? Yes, he has. He's all the way down in P19. Max Verstappen currently out on track on I think a warm-up lap, but we'll have to wait and see what he's able to do on his first hot lap out there. Perez, being set by Pureblood. Perez P6 on softs, LOL. Not the greatest representation for Sergio Perez at the moment. Hopefully he is just on a set of softs with a lot of fuel. Otherwise, if it is a true look at the pace from him. That is not great. Max Verstappen looking very, very hooked up out on track at the moment, making his first hot lap, coming through the first sector. Now let's see what he's able to put in. Comes through 0.2 behind Logan Sargent's time in that first sector, looking so hooked up in that middle sector, though. He may still be on a lot of fuel coming through that middle sector now. Turns 7 and 8, looking super hooked up through there. His mid-sector time through there, let's see what it is. 155 kilometers now, pretty standard through there, through turn 9. Coming through the middle sector now, let's see what his mid-sector time is. Is he able to beat anyone else? 0.2, still behind Logan Sargent's time at the moment. Max Verstappen now coming through that final sector, through the final corner now, turn 14, looking super hooked up. 300 of you now watching alongside with us. Thank you very much. Max Verstappen's DRS goes wide open. He puts himself up into P2.075 behind Logan Sargent's fastest time. Interesting to see we have Logan Sargent currently still leading a session. Certainly not what I thought I'd be saying today, but we have Logan Sargent up in P1.075 ahead of Max Verstappen. Pure Blood just giving her support for Logie Bear, apparently. Certainly a new nickname for him. We have Esty Bestie, Logie Bear. I mean, we're really starting to give these drivers some baby names out there. These guys are supposed to be the best drivers in the world. Come on, let's give them some better nicknames. But we have Lewis Hamilton on another hot lap at the moment. Personal best in his first sector. What is he able to do in the middle sector? 0.2 down on Logan Sargent's time. Possibly being able to match Verstappen's sectors. Let's see what he's able to do now through his final sector. Carlos Sainz also on a hot lap, matching what Lewis Hamilton is doing out on track. Offbeat saying Toto is currently not looking very happy. I'm sure he won't be, but Hamilton puts himself up into P4 now, so not too bad from himself. Carlos Sainz crosses the line as well, puts himself into P6 with a 1:19.003. Still a little bit off the pace, but we'll have to wait and see what they can do on a set of softs. Albon falls all the way down to P5 now on his set of softs. Hamilton, though, still not too bad on a set of mediums up in P4. Verstappen, though, we'll have to wait and see what he's able to do on a bit of a lower fuel run. Hopefully he is able to find a little bit more pace out there with his new upgrades. Charles Leclerc finishes his hot lap. Nothing too great from him, not improving on his final 2 sectors, possibly just having taken the life out of that tyre. Unfortunately, I'm not being able to improve. He should just be doing some more, I'm sure, some race pace runs at the moment. Logan Sargent backing off now to let his teammate through. Alex Albon finishing up a hot lap now. Let's see what his tyre, he's on a set of mediums. Let's see what he can do this time. He crosses the line and puts himself up into P1 with a set of mediums. That is brilliant from Alex Albon. Possibly a bit of a lower fuel run, but brilliant from Alex Albon with a 1:18.3. Currently 0.45 up on anyone else there on track. Brilliant from Alex Albon, once again finding phenomenal amounts of pace on track. I mean, another Mercedes-powered team that seems to be doing very well out here on track. McLaren, though, currently just trying to dry their pit lane. Still a lot of water on that concrete pit lane due to the rain that we had a little bit earlier. It's really not drying there for them. Cody Foster saying his predictions for this race weekend, saying Norris is going to win. I'm calling it. And then in brackets, only if Max has a mistake or a crash. I mean, I don't even know if Max makes a mistake if he's able to give that win to Lando Norris. I mean, we've seen him here do a full 360 last year, and he still took the race win. I mean, Max really has to just completely lose his car if he wants to let anyone else take the race win. He's been so dominant this season, and it's really all of his to win or lose here. Just watching, though, Yuki Tsunoda setting his fastest lap time at the moment. Starting another hot lap, giving his teammate, I think, a bit of a tow through that long DRS straight. Currently, Daniel Ricciardo is right behind his teammate, so not too bad from Ricciardo at the moment. Still getting used to that AlphaTauri car. We should be able to see him being able to pick up the pace very soon and possibly improve on his teammates' time. Yuki Tsunoda currently being quite close to Alex Albon's time, setting a personal best, only 0.03 off of Alex Albon's fastest time at the moment. So this track clearly ramping up quite quickly as we have Lance Stroll now taking that fastest lap time away from Alex Albon on a set of softs. Lance Stroll having that time now taken away from him by Nico Hülkenberg, 0.2 seconds faster. Yuki Tsunoda setting a fastest middle sector out there on track right now. So as I said, this track is clearly evolving very, very quickly at the moment. 402 of you watching alongside with us at the moment. Thank you very much for tuning into this live stream. Please do be sure to join us throughout the rest of the weekend. Yuki Tsunoda now moves himself up into P1 with a fastest second and third sector there. His fastest lap time is a 1:17.9. Finally breaking into that 1:17 mark. This track clearly evolving very quickly now after having been washed clean in FP1. Now we have a lot more running in the session and a lot more rubber being put out on track. Mark just saying 400 viewers. Let's go to 500. We are actually going quite quickly, so thank you very much for tuning into this live stream. Please do be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, as well as check out our channel partners, Bitdefender, down in the description. Teo will be very happy about my Bitdefender plug. We'll see that in the comments any second, I'm sure. But we currently have a few drivers just slowing down at the moment. Max Verstappen puts in another fastest time, only third at the moment, 0.3 seconds behind Yuki Tsunoda's fastest lap time out there. A lot of people currently doing a warm down lap before they go and put in some more hot laps out there on track. Possibly just seeing, though, that this track is ramping up towards that medium tire a little bit more than the softs, with Alex Albon and Logan Sargent, Alex Albon and Lando Norris putting in some very good times on those mediums. As I say that, Taya, as per usual, doesn't disappoint and comments, of course. Lily just saying, what is going on with both of the Ferraris in the pits at the moment? Do we have both of them in the pits? Yes, we do. I mean, maybe just making some setup changes just to possibly get some more lap time there. But yes, we'll see what is going to happen for them. Alonso still not finding a lot of pace outs on track, far off of his teammate Lance Stroll, all the way up in P4. And Alonso, as I say that, doesn't disappoint and moves himself up into P3. I was quite shocked there for a bit that Lance Stroll was beating Fernando Alonso, but it looks like he was able to make me eat my words there a little bit and moves himself up into P3. Magnussen now moves himself up into P7, Hamilton in P8, Logan Sargent P9, and to finish up our top 10, Lando Norris. So quite a close top 10 at the moment, with a lot more people making their way out onto track. Asking where George Russell is at the moment. George Russell is all the way down in P17, 1.2 seconds off the fastest lap time at the moment. Gasly all the way down at the bottom, not doing too well in those two Alpines. They're not finding a lot of pace out there. We have Daniel Ricciardo on another lap now, so hopefully we'll see some better lap times being put in for him. Lando Norris with the fastest middle sector at the moment. We should see these lap times falling yet again as Zhou Guanyu puts himself up into P4. A little bit of a correction for Lando Norris into turn 13, but still looking quite neat and tidy through turn 40, making a few corrections though on the wheel. Let's see where this lap time puts him. He puts himself now up into P1 with the 1:17.7. Cody Foster saying we need something to happen to Red Bull so we can get more winners. I mean, do we need something to happen to Red Bull, or do we just want to see everyone else making better gains on them? Because I want to see closer racing. But I mean, Red Bull don't seem to be finding too much pace with their new upgrades. Being asked if it is still raining out on track, it is not raining at the moment. It is nice and dry compared to FP1 where it was bucketing it down, unfortunately. So we didn't get much running in that session, but we are jam-packed in this session. Everyone completely making up for the no running in that previous session. Ocon on the radio saying, I almost crashed into Tsunoda in the pits, and just being told, okay, copy, we will report that. Pure Blood just confirming what I said there, that it is dry out on track. Offbeat saying, no, Russell's just sweating. Yes, Russell possibly just sweating out there as per usual. Taya saying, hoping and praying that the Red Bull's upgrades flop. Yeah, they don't seem to be finding a lot of pace out there on a set of softs as well. We expect them to be up at the top, but currently P6 and P12. The Ferraris as well, not on the pace at the moment, down on P13 and P14. Just to go over our upgrades that have been brought to this race weekend, a lot of upgrades have been brought to this race weekend. So just to go over that, one of our team members, James, put together a great comprehensive list for me, so I'll go over it for you. Red Bull have brought 5 upgrades to this race weekend with a new front corner for reliability, rear corner, side pod inlet, engine cover, all for reliability, and a new floor body for performance. This new floor body has already been leaked thanks to Sergio Perez's crash. I'm sure that the designers and Adrian Newey is going to be absolutely thrilled that has happened. But nonetheless, Mercedes have brought 3 upgrades to this race weekend with new front suspension, new front wing, and a new rear wing. The new rear wing is circuit-specific front wing performance gaining, and the front suspension as well for performance gains. Ferrari have brought 1, which is a front wing, which is circuit-specific. Alpine have brought 1, which is also a circuit-specific front wing. Aston have brought a new engine cover, circuit-specific as well. Haas have brought a new floor body for performance. AlphaTauri with 4 new upgrades, new front wing, a new nose, a new floor body, and a new rear wing, all for performance. No upgrades this weekend, though, for Williams, Alpha, and McLaren. Sorry for that. But yes, so a whole host of upgrades having been brought to this race weekend. Not looking particularly great for the Red Bulls just yet. Big lockup for Sergio Perez out on track. Just shy of 500 people watching alongside us at the moment. I'm sure we will get to that very, very soon. Please do just push the link with all of your friends, with your dog, your cat, all of your friends at home. Going to be, well, I see we do now have 500 of you watching alongside with us. Thank you very much for joining our stream, as we do have a lot of running still out on track at the moment. 28 minutes left of this session, and it is looking like it is quite an interesting session, with Lando Norris currently topping the timesheets in P1, Yuki Tsunoda P2, Esteban Ocon in P3, Hulkenberg P4, Alonso P5, Zhou Guanyu P6, Verstappen down in P7 with those new upgrades, Lance Stroll P8, Bottas P9, Albon 10th, Ricciardo 11th. Ricciardo quite far off still of his teammate, but hopefully he will be able to find a little bit more pace out there. Magnussen P12, Hamilton P13, Stroll 14, Perez 15th, Sainz P16, Leclerc 17th. Quite a dismal session so far for the Ferraris. Oscar Piastri P18, George Russell P19th, and Gasly down in P20. Gasly making some gains though at the moment on Lando Norris's time in Sector 1. Let's see what he's able to do throughout the rest of this lap time. Pierre Gasly coming through the middle sector at the moment. Looking not too hooked up through the middle sector, but we'll have to wait and see what he's able to do throughout the rest of the session. Snow Lion saying she's watching with her cats. Great to hear. Thank you for joining in on our stream. Please do be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to join us for the rest of the weekend, as well as for the rest of the season. Still a lot of races to go this season. This is only the 13th of 23 races this season. Taya just saying unrelated because Ferrari is still flopping. Barbie or Oppenheimer first? I'm certainly looking forward to the Oppenheimer film. It's got quite a jam-packed cast, so I'm going to be watching that one first. But Barbie should also be quite good to watch. Please do let us know your opinion down in the comment section. Not Formula One related, though, of course. Zhao just asking, is it raining at the moment? No, it is not. It is very nice and dry out on track, which is why we're having everyone putting in some really good lap times at the moment, with Lando Norris topping the timesheet at the moment. Currently a bit of a lull in activity, with most of the people just on a bit of a warm down lap after doing some hot laps. A lot of people come into the pits to put on some new tires as well. I think quite a few possible quali simulations coming quite soon, because it is going to be similar conditions to what we should get tomorrow afternoon. But we will have to wait and see what happens, as we do have Carlos Sainz in the pits. Majority of the drivers are in the pits at the moment. Valtteri Bottas moves himself up into P6 on a set of medium tyres with a 1:18.0. Not a bad lap time from him. Kashish just asking, what is the current track record? I don't know, but I will quickly search that for you and I will let you know. Hungary track lap. Always good to have a lot of comments from you guys. The current track lap record is 1:16.627, so still a little bit off of that, with a 1:17.7 being set by Lando Norris, but not miles away. This was set in 2020 by Lewis Hamilton. This is a race lap record, so still quite far off of that. Of course, that was the previous generation of cars, which were a little bit faster than these, but these are quite quickly evolving and getting faster. So we could see that lap time being beaten this race weekend, if we do see these times being, well, beaten quite soon. I'm sure we will be seeing them being beaten quite soon, as the track is revving up quite quickly. We currently have Charles Leclerc on a hot lap, looking very hooked up, 0.055 down on Lando Norris's fastest time at the moment in that first sector. He's making his way through the middle sector now, through turns 6 and 7. That tricky chicane out there. Lily saying Leclerc's out. I don't know why. Sainz is still in the pits, possibly making some more setup changes to his car at the moment. Leclerc making his way through the middle sector. Let's see what he can do through the second sector. If he is able to take a purple sector, 0.08 down on Lando Norris's time. Super close behind these two drivers at the moment. Let's see what he's able to do now through this final sector. Not long to wait until we see what he is able to do. Max Verstappen currently being asked what he is doing. He is in the pits at the moment. Leclerc goes fastest out of everyone at the moment, just though by 0.015 on Lando Norris. But it is still P1, but still great to see that Lando Norris and those McLarens have quite a lot of pace still out on track. Teo just being very disappointed in the Ferrari's pace at the moment out on track. They certainly are being quite disappointing out on track, not having a lot of pace at the moment, with Carlos Sainz down in P18 and Charles Leclerc being up at the top of the time board should at least make you a little bit happier with that lap time. Quite a lot of work going on. I think it is on Daniel Ricciardo's car. No, it isn't. It is Yuki Tsunoda's car. It looks like a bit of work happening on the power unit there, as we have George Russell currently on a hot lap, seeing what he is doing right now. Not doing any personal best. I think he's on a warm-up lap. Just waiting to see, though, what Daniel Ricciardo can do. He's still behind his teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, who's currently up in P4. Daniel Ricciardo all the way down in P13. Certainly will be wanting to put in some faster lap times. Just waiting for him to get back out on track, as we do have George Russell now starting another hot lap. Just hearing that the AlphaTauris have been working a lot on the brakes for their new car. They brought quite a few upgrades last weekend, or last race weekend in Silverstone. They brought quite a few upgrades as well this weekend. So hopefully they'll be able to make some gains here with with Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. some people just talking about Jos Verstappen at the moment in the comment section. I don't know what that's about, but certainly an interesting conversation happening over there. Please do let us know where you're watching from in the comment section. 516 of you watching alongside me right now. Thank you very much for tuning in on this stream. But we still have a lot of time to get going for the session. 21 minutes left of this free practice 2 session this afternoon here in Hungary. Carlos Sainz finishing up a lap time at the moment, only putting himself in P10. Max Verstappen still in the pits as well. Certainly a bit of a mixed grid at the moment with Charles Leclerc P1, Lando Norris P2, then Gasly in the Alpine P3, Yuki Tsunoda P4, Ocon P5, Hulkenberg 6th, Bottas 7th, Alonso 8th, Zhou 9th, Sainz 10th, Verstappen 11th, Stroll in 12th, Albon 13th, Ricciardo 14th, Magnussen 15th, Hamilton 16th, Sargent 17th, Perez 18th, not finding much time out there for Perez, Piastri down in 19th, and George Russell in P20. Of course, as well, mixed tire runs at the moment, as well as some people are pointing out that they are all on different fuel runs at the moment, which could also be why their lap times are not necessarily super true to where they lie at the moment. Lewis Hamilton currently on a race run at the moment, not looking particularly fast out there, but it does look like he's pretty high on fuel at the moment right now. So that could be why he's not putting in any very fast lap times. One of the only top drivers out on circuit at the moment, Leclerc currently on an out lap though. Norris also out there on track. Hopefully we'll see some better lap times coming from him very, very soon. It's clear, though, that Lewis Hamilton is on a very high fuel run at the moment, just trying to see how that car is going to handle throughout the race on Sunday. Of course, that is what is most important, is to have a good car for the race, because that is where you get all of your points, of course. We'll have to wait and see, though, what he's able to do on a qualifying run. I'm sure they will do that before the end of this session. Just looking on the pit wall for the Mercedes at the moment, with a lot of them just looking at the data, I'm sure they'll be wanting to make some more gains on the Ferraris and McLarens. Of course, getting very close there between the Alpine and the, I think that is Carlos Sainz, or no, that's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, getting very close to, I think it is Pierre Gasly there. We do have Oscar Piastri's car up on the jacks at the moment, so possibly an issue for him, possibly on the floor, as I do see quite a few mechanics under that car. Some people just asking what happened to the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls have brought major upgrades to this session and this race weekend, and possibly just trying to get to the bottom of that before they show their true pace. But at the moment, being a little bit off of the, bit off of the pace of everyone else. We do have Max Verstappen, though, setting another hot lap. Let's see what he's able to do through the first sector. 0.1 off of the fastest time from Charles Leclerc at the moment. Not too bad, but certainly not looking too hooked up right now. It does look like he may be on a set of used softs, though. I do not necessarily know if he is on a brand new set, though. $590 of you watching alongside with me at the moment. Thank you very much for joining, getting very close to 600 watching alongside with us. Please do hit that like button. We only have 58 likes and there's almost 600 of you watching alongside with us. That certainly doesn't make sense. So please do hit that like button for me. Just waiting to see what Max Verstappen can do on this hot lap, possibly on some higher fuel runs, because he has not gone faster in that middle sector. Coming through the final sector now, 0.7 seconds off of that fastest lap time, still staying down in P11. Teo just saying I should plug Bitdefender there. Yes, please do check our channel sponsors, Bitdefender, down in the description below. We are very, very fortunate and grateful for Bitdefender for joining us alongside to bring you all of these streams. Please do be sure to check them in the link in the description. Pure Blood just saying it's possibly the last year for Sergio Perez. It's certainly not looking great for him. Yeah, it's not looking very promising at the moment. Sergio Perez currently ramping up for a hot lap. DRS opens wide now as he crosses the line and starts another hot lap. Watching as he goes, there is, I think that is Lance Stroll behind him with a whole bunch of Flover's paint on the back of his wing. I mean, this is where Perez really has to start showing what he can do, because it's really make or break at the moment for him. Perez up on his personal best in that first sector, coming through the middle sector now through turn 6 and 7, a little bit wide through the exit of turn 7, but still keeping it on track there, making his way through turn 8 and 9 now. Let's see what he's able to do through this middle sector. Down at the moment on Charles Leclerc's time. He is on a set of mediums though, 0.9 seconds down. Let's see if he is able to improve on his time though, still, as he is down in P18. I'm sure he should be able to. Fish finger connoisseur, great. Great name. Verstappen P11. Certainly not looking too promising for the Red Bulls at the moment with these new upgrades. Maybe it's just not working. Maybe they need to go back to their old spec. Which of course they can do, because it is still very, very pacey out there on track. Teo just saying Perez is gone. I don't think it's going to change. He's certainly not looking like he's going to be able to hold onto that seat with the way he's performing at the moment. Also, notably, this race weekend, we have a bit of a shake-up coming in qualifying. We have a new qualifying format happening this race weekend. In qualifying 1, you have to use only a set of hard tyres, or as many as you want. I think normally you use about 2 sets. Then in qualifying 2, you are only allowed to use mediums, and then qualifying 3, may you use a set of softs. This is just to get the teams to use more tyres throughout the race weekend, because otherwise they bring all of these tyres here and they don't end up using them. Certainly a sustainable approach to qualifying. Hopefully it doesn't cause too many shakeups, or maybe hopefully it does cause some shakeups and we see some different drivers getting eliminated in qualifying 1. I think Sergio Perez certainly has to be quite careful and needs to practice his qualifying runs before tomorrow afternoon. He certainly needs to start picking up the pieces from the rest of the season. He's had such a great start to the season and is now just really falling off the pace of his teammates. But just waiting to see what he is able to do once he stops running on high fuel runs. Kevin Magnussen also notably quite far off the pace of his teammate Magnussen, down on 15th. Hülkenberg all the way up in P6, 0.3 seconds off of Charles Leclerc's time. 0.3 seconds off of the P5 Ocon in front of him, so still quite a bit off of Leclerc's time. But I mean, we don't expect teammates to be so far ahead, far between each other. Alonso up in P8 with Stroll down in P12. We do expect them to be a little bit more far apart, because we have seen Stroll just isn't able to really match Alonso all the time. He is certainly getting better, but sometimes he does still fall off the pace at some of these more difficult tracks. Offbeat just saying, what does Red Bull need to upgrade? Steering wheel heating? I mean, really, their car has been so dominant this season. You wouldn't think they'd want to bring upgrades, but they are just constantly chasing perfection, which is to be expected at a really high-end team. Looking at a lot of that high Flovis paint on the Alfa Romeo of, I think it is Valtteri Bottas. Yes, it is, as he is currently doing a couple race runs. Max Verstappen is back in the pits at the moment, possibly trying to make some more setup changes on his car. Josh goes slow, just saying Saucy is going to lose the seat if he doesn't get some better times on the board. Yes, Saucy is currently down in P21. He is our fictional 21st Formula 1 driver at the moment. His lap time is, for some reason, still on our timing boards after Formula 2 practice or qualifying, I think was before this. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens with... I think it's George Saucy is his first name, if I'm not mistaken. Logan Sargent on the radio just saying some reports of rain in Sector 2, a small amount. That's quite interesting to see that we have some rain that is coming into Sector 2 at the moment. Hopefully that doesn't affect the session all too much, but we do only have 10 minutes left of this session. Sophia asking why Oscar Piastri hasn't gotten out on track for quite some time. Unfortunately, he has some damage, I think, on the floor of his car. We did see it up on the jacks, and there was a lot of work going on to the bottom of his car. So I don't think he's going to get out for the remainder of this session. Just watching on the radio, a very small speck of weather moving over track, but I don't think it is certainly going to affect the session at all. Interesting to see that Carlos Sainz is so far off the pace of Charles Leclerc at the moment. Carlos Sainz normally being able to match his teammate, and they are on the same set of tyres. Charles Leclerc currently on an out lap. Will he be able to improve on his lap time, or will he do some race runs on another tyre? Van Redsburg just saying there, some true words, just saying that they need to crunch the numbers after FP1 where they didn't get any running done. They certainly will be wanting to do some correlation between their sims and what is happening out on track for sure. So we'll see what they are able to do throughout the session with the limited running that they do have, of course, because FP1 was a bit rained out and we did have that red flag for Sergio Perez's crash. It's very interesting to see the fact that we have cars with Mercedes engines like the McLarens and the Williams being able to set some really good lap times. But Mercedes still seeming to struggle a little bit on the pace. Fishfinger asking what's going on. I'm behind. Has Perez put it in the wall again? No, he hasn't in this session, but in free practice 1, he crashed into the wall and caused some damage to the car. Luckily they were able to get it fixed before this session, but certainly not what he wanted to do in the first 3 minutes of free practice 1. 8 minutes left of this session now. Logan Sargent putting in another lap time, currently 7 seconds off of Charles Leclerc's fastest lap. But he is currently doing some race runs out there. Just waiting to see some more lap times being put down here. It looks like everyone is currently just doing some race runs now, so we don't expect to see these times falling too much more until the last maybe few minutes. We do have Kevin Magnussen on a set of hards though, getting some practice and before qualifying later tomorrow afternoon. Also being asked if Perez is having the biggest mental breakdown in Formula 1 history, from title challenger to mirroring Latifi, all in the same year. It is certainly very perplexing, the fact that he's gone from being able to match Max Verstappen in races, taking race wins, taking comfortable P2s, and being able to fight with the Ferraris and everyone else. And now he's just really off the pace. I mean, I think off the back of Monaco, where he had that crash in qualifying, that really hurt his mind maybe and his mental confidence coming into a race weekend. And every race weekend after that, he's been really off the pace, especially in qualifying, which is where you really need to have that mental confidence to take extra risks and get that extra few tenths in a lap, which is where we see his teammate really excelling, and he's just struggling. And then D-Ware with a really great comment there saying, I think Sergio needs to speak to Nico Rosberg ASAP, or possibly Nico Hulkenberg as well. He's the only person on this planet who would understand him, from juggling a family to competing against a world champion. I assume then it is Nico Rosberg. Spend the break with him. I mean, that certainly could help, spending the break with someone who has been through something like he has, just getting him into the right mindset, and yeah, really coming back into the second half of the season a bit refreshed and hopefully reset and having that confidence again in the car, because we don't like to see Sergio Perez, who's historically been such a great driver, being so far off the pace. Also, just saying that he could have qualifying problems again. Certainly he could if the Red Bulls are slightly off the pace with their new upgrades. I mean, it could take them a race weekend or two to get to the bottom of them. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they're able to do. Hamilton on the radio just saying, I've got no grip. He is currently on a very long run, and being told this is long run data is very useful. Others look like they're having similar issues. So getting some really, really good data for Sunday. So we could be seeing a lot of degradation on Sunday and having to have maybe 2-3 stops on Sunday rather than just a boring 1 to 2 stop race. Piastri currently on a hot run, or a long run at the moment, down on his personal best in the first and second sector, 4.2 seconds off the fastest time to be expected in long runs. But yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. A 121, 122, that's certainly a very comfortable race pace that they do have on that set of mediums. Hopefully they are able to get a little bit more comfortable out there. I mean, these comfortable lap times will be able to help them challenge on Sunday with the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, and the Mercedes. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what they're able to do. Also being asked by Amalia, what is wrong with Verstappen? Verstappen down in P11 at the moment. Those Red Bulls seemingly not running too fast at the moment with their new upgrades, possibly just trying to get to a comfortable setup with their new upgrades. I mean, yeah. Taya just saying, manage your expectations for Ferrari. I think over these past few months and years, we've managed to learn to really not get our hopes up when it comes to Ferrari, as disappointing as that is to say. I mean, they were challenging last year at the front in the first half of the season, and then really just not doing so well through the second half, and this season just being so far off the pace. We were hoping when they abandoned the season last year that they were going to put a lot more effort into this season, and they came in from the first race and just were not able to match the Red Bulls. Fair enough, the Red Bulls have been extremely competitive this year, but we expected the Ferraris to be just as competitive, if not more. So we'll have to wait and see what they're able to do. Of course, there is new management at Ferrari with Frederic Vasseur, but still, we expect to see that historical team being able to take race wins. Just some people giving their predictions saying it would be a better 2-stop race. 1-stop races are a bit more difficult nowadays, of course, with higher degradation and a lot more of these tracks. We did see last time out in Silverstone, I think most of the people went for a 2-stop race because the degradation there was also quite high. Some people just saying Daniel Ricciardo isn't improving. A lot of expectation and a lot of hopes on Daniel Ricciardo this race weekend. I think we have to be quite lenient on him for his first race weekend out, though, because he is still learning how that car handles, as well as, I mean, it's a completely back of the grid car. That car has been really off the pace this season. fair enough. Tsunoda is all the way up in P4. But, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what Daniel's able to do as he gets more comfortable in that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Yuki Tsunoda as well, because if Daniel Ricciardo outperforms him, he could also be at risk of losing his seat. But if he outperforms Daniel Ricciardo, that's going to be major for him, for sure, because that may just get promotion into that number one team at Red Bull if Sergio Perez does indeed get the axe over the summer break. A lot of people speculating that he will get the axe before Zandvoort, but I do believe that we will have him possibly for the rest of the season if he is able to maybe pick up the pace a little bit this race weekend. We see, I think that is Fernando Alonso coming into the pits now. We have 1 minute left of this session. It has been very, very busy, and it has been great to see so many drivers out on track as Alonso does leave the pits after doing a practice stop there. He'll go round and do a practice start at the end of the session. 40 seconds left. Alonso currently 0.2 seconds up on Lance Stroll, his teammate, who's down in P12, Alonso being in P8. Patio Green just saying, last time I checked, Sergio Perez is still second in the championship. He may still be second in the championship, but over the past few races, he certainly lost out on a lot of points. And I mean, when you're in the fastest car in the championship, and possibly one of the fastest cars of all time, I mean, historically, this car is so dominant over everyone else on the grid. It's certainly a bit disappointing to see him so far off the pace of his teammate.
Powering on.
Speak of disappointing, though, the second Ferrari of Carlos Sainz down in P10. I mean, granted, he is ahead of Max Verstappen out on track, but certainly we do expect to see that second Ferrari also being a little bit higher up. Andre just saying that he's logged on to see me streaming here and I'm running solo here. Yes, Mark unfortunately has load shedding, so he is not able to join us on voice, but we will have him back tomorrow for FP3 as well as qualifying, as we do see the checkered flag now being waved for the end of practice 2. It has been an interesting session with a lot of running. Our top 10, though, for the end of the session: Charles Leclerc in P1, Lando Norris P2, Pierre Gasly P3, Yuki Tsunoda in P4, Esteban Ocon P5 for Alpine, Hülkenberg P6, Valtteri Bottas P7, Alonso P8, Zhou P9, Sainz in P10, Verstappen P11, not finding much pace with those new upgrades on that Red Bull. That is going to be quite a bit of a talking point between today and tomorrow. Lance Stroll then P12, Albon 13th, Ricciardo P14, quite far off the pace of his teammate, Magnussen P15, Hamilton P16, Logan Sargent P17, Perez P18, Piastri 19th, and Russell 20th. It's been an interesting session. Thank you very much for all of you for joining in. RR just saying, watching the podcast of Horner on the F1 channel rather than commenting like he'll get sacked in the summer break. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Sergio Perez. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the next 2 races. It's certainly going to be a very interesting and a ever-developing story, so please do stay tuned to our channel. Please do stay on the channel. We are going to be moving across to our... Well, let me just double check what is actually happening first. So we're not moving into another session. We're going to be doing a recap here. So just to go over what happened in the session, it's been certainly quite interesting with TSM Red Bull flopping. I mean, I don't necessarily know if we can call it just yet. This is technically the first session of practice, because I don't think you can really count free practice 1 earlier here, because I mean it was completely soaked. Just watching a couple of drivers doing some practice starts here at the moment. It's been an interesting session for the Aston Martins, who seem to be also not necessarily on the pace, with Alonso P8 and Stroll down in P12. They are ahead though of the Red Bulls, which, I mean, I'm very, very confused over that right now. I don't know what is going on with those two Red Bulls. Seemingly off the pace with those new upgrades. We expect them to have a lot more pace out here with those upgrades, but possibly just trying to get to grips with those before tomorrow. I agree, though, with Patio Green saying the race isn't one on Friday. That's just that. I mean, yeah, race isn't one on Fridays. Fridays where you just get your data, try to get a good setup. Saturdays where you focus on qualifying as well as your race runs. And then on Sunday is where all of the points are gained, as well as where everything matters. Just to go over, though, what happened here in P2, our top 20, Charles Leclerc P1, Lando Norris P2, Pierre Gasly then in P3. An interesting top 3 here today. Yeah, certainly a very interesting top 3. Then moving down the rest of the grid, P4, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, P5, Nico Hulkenberg, P6, Bottas, 7th, Alonso, 8th, Zhou Guanyu, 9th, Carlos Sainz, then in 10. Then the rest of the grid is as follows: Verstappen in P11, Stroll in 12th, Albon 13th, Ricciardo in P14th, Magnussen in P15th, Hamilton P16th, Sargent 17th, Perez down on P18th, 19th is Piastri, and to round it all off is George Russell down in P20. It's going to be a very interesting qualifying session tomorrow, of course, with that new format that we have coming with hard tyres in the first session, medium second session, and softs in qualifying 3. Please do be sure to join us in that stream, as well as join us for the rest of the sessions that we have throughout this race weekend. Thank you very much. I have been Reese here on Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports, watching along for free practice 2 here in Hungary. Thank you very much. Cheers.